How's it going, everyone? You know, every now and again we're asked, how do we light our smoker? That's exactly how we light our smoker. I pack it down. I got pine needles in here. I just got them off the ground at this property. I use cedar chips a lot, but you know, pack them down and then just burn the bottom of it with some of the you know, make it cherry red, and that's how we do our smoker. So, well, welcome back to the channel. We're out here at Robert's Cave. We're gonna check these hives out right quick. The kids are at with Grandma, or Memer. We call her Memer. That's my mom, and we're at the beach at Lake Eufaula. Me and the queen bee were here checking the bees, and then we're gonna go cool off too and get some swimming in. So looking forward to that. It is hot. We're about 100 degrees right now. Definitely been hot in Oklahoma. Hot and humid. Lots of small hive beetles up there. I like to smush them every time I see them. Get this zipped up. You know, I was asked, do we weed eat around all of our properties? Yes and no. I don't manicure any yard, but we do try to keep like a backyard a little bit more under control, but I don't need, I don't manicure them, you know, maybe just a couple times. I don't mind them like this, you know, the property owner, if they do, they'll let me know, but I don't mind them overgrown. And stuff, we kind of just let it with the property owner. So we are running these for a fall crop. We can get usually a decent fall crop out here. So these are, that's why we haven't put them down into their singles. We'll keep that extra box on them and let them continue storing nectar. And what we got, lots of food out there. This is natural. We have not fed any of these. It's just real food. That's one thing we do a lot of. Now, with that said, I am not against feeding bees. If they need it, feed them. But also, we try to leave them an entire box, like you see here, full of food. I got some of it capped. They're still bringing it in. And that is what I like to leave. That will carry them through the dirt. It's just how we like to do it. Doesn't mean it's the right way or the wrong way or any way, it's just our way. But if our bees need fed, then by all means I'm going to feed them. We're going to intervene. I don't want them to starve to death or anything like that. Doing pretty simple inspections. You know, it's August. Verifying a queen, pretty much. Now, since we don't feed, our queens do shut down. That is one thing I really like about it. So there's not a tremendous amount of brood on here. We verify eggs and larvae and what the brood they have. Make sure that our queens got properly mated for the ones that we let rear, because we gave them a brood break in June. And then we verify, you know, the ones that we didn't introduce. So on this one, I like the genetics out here. I like how the bees do out here. So we let them open mate out here. We don't introduce a queen or anything. And she's doing well. Got some brood on there. Lots of young larvae and eggs out to there. So they did go through an entire brood break. So they are building up for the winter. We pulled the queen. We gave her, made a simple little split, 2 frames with the queen, and then let them raise their own. So there's a whole bunch of a nice frame of capped brood on there on her. That's what we like to see. We don't need to go anymore. We got our queen on there. They gave us 2 splits, this hive did, and a crop of honey. We will get the other crop up fall honey, hopefully, if everything goes right. A small one. It's not large, but it is a little bit. We are southeast Oklahoma. One thing that comes up is checking colonies, you know, and the way that it's pushed is 7 to 10 days. And I used to be like that. I used to be one that was on board. Now, we've always been a treatment free, but I've been on board with checking colonies. I'll move you over here. See how that looks. All right. But yeah, I used to say, you know, get in there, check your colonies. Now you need to learn for sure. And so when you're newer, you need to learn up the bees and see what they're doing and how they're doing, and learn your flows and all that stuff. But then, when I had my wreck, is when things started changing for me. I couldn't get into the bee yards, and I was out for quite a while, and I started noticing, and bees are doing good, if not better, than me getting into them all the time. And I just started setting up yards, and we started backing off. And over time, us being treatment free, I wasn't worried about the varroa mites or anything like that, because our bees are set up to withstand that. You know, and it's not that I don't lose colonies, but they were doing great. They were doing fine. The areas that we did, and we started backing off, and now we continue to do it. I get in here, I make my splits early spring, a really heavy split, good food on these girls. I mean, again, natural food. I tell people it's not the genetics that I got that make us. I'm not the best beekeeper or anything like that. It is, I simply do it a little bit different. I prefer to leave the natural food. I prefer to have away from monocrops and industrial agriculture. Not saying that that doesn't need to be done or there's not a place for it. It's just not the way that we do it. It's not the way I prefer to do it or I want to do it. You know, so keeping small apiaries, you know, most of our videos you see just a handful of hives out. Now I do have some larger yards, we do have holding yards, but I prefer just a smaller one, a couple hives here and there, and not overloading an area. I think that has a lot to do with it and keeping Varroa mites down low. We choose to do the brood breaks and, you know, pulling a queen and running a younger queen. I think that is extremely important. Beautiful eggs in here, just all throughout this whole area. She is laying, she is done, she has come back, she's well mated. We're gonna take that queen excluder with us though, you know, and I just started experimenting with different things. Beautiful brood on that one as well. And again, all these queens were pulled. Young white larvae, I mean, just glistening in the sun. All these queens were pulled back in June. But I've only been in this hive, in this yard, 4 times this whole entire year. We made her split. We let them requeen themselves, or we introduced them, and then we ran them for honey. We pulled honey. We made another split for a brood break in after the summer solstice, and now they're getting built up for us to get. And like I said, we'll get a small fall flow usually off of this yard, so this one's a little bit more ahead. Got a little bit more brood on her, but very good. I mean, like it's really young, nice, glistening larvae, you know. And then I let them be bees, and we let them have a lot of natural forage. And I think that helps a lot with just the treatment-free side and stuff. You know, I've never gotten hung up on, let me go get all the breeders that are like, hey, we need treatment free. And people that try it, that's what they get sucked into, all these terms, VHS, and you know, this person's running treatment free, and you don't know. But if you build it up in your apiary and you just let them go, and then you start splitting off from bees that are surviving, and you breed off of them and you let them become your drone mothers in your yard, you know, you can change your genetics. Now it does take time and it does take work, but you know, if you're doing something different, then you're gonna have to just experiment, step away from the main crowd. And again, that's just the point that I got into, and it was because of a wreck. You know, I've always just kind of bred off of the bees that survived and built the yards up. I've always believed in a smaller apiary. But we manage them, let them manage the swarms, make sure they're well fed, they have plenty of food, make sure the queens are young, they're constantly and that they have plenty of room and that they're doing that. But you know, at a time, I just let bees be bees now, and I get into them, I do what I need to do, I get out of them. I'm not in them very long, as you can see, and you know, I move on to the next one. I don't want to mess up their thing. I don't need to go and verify frame by frame everything. I know that there's a ton of food in here. There's plenty of food to put incoming nectar in that's going to start. I know that the queen is down here, or that she was. She's able to lay in both of these boxes now. And you know, but they got plenty of food. They got natural food on them, and they're doing good. Here's my hive tool. I lose these things all the time. That was from when these colonies were knocked over in the storms. Couldn't find it, but I found it. So, you know, that's just the way that I kind of do it now. I just look at it a little bit different, and it's not that, you know, for everybody, and I don't run for migratory or anything like that, but I don't believe that we need bees of 80, 100,000 population and just checking them all the time anymore. Is it right for you? I don't know. You have to make that determination, but the only way to do that is by getting out there and trying something new. You know, when people ask me how do I go and start treatment free, because honestly I don't think the majority of beekeepers want to treat with everything, and I'm one that I don't believe in the whole there's an organic and then there's a synthetic side. It's all produced by the exact same companies. It's just one of them's labeled organic, you know, but to me it doesn't matter. I don't believe in the whole organic and then synthetic side and all that stuff. It's a treatment's a treatment, and when you're talking about chemicals. Now some people will say, oh, you're not treatment free because you do the brood breaks. When I say I'm treatment free, I don't use chemical treatments, whether organic or synthetic. Outside of that, I'm still a beekeeper. I'm going to protect my bees and I'm going to take care of them. So I'll feed them if it needs to, and we'll do what we need to do, but minimal disturbance, you know. But back to the thing, when people ask me, like, how do you go about setting them up? Let's say you have these two hives right here. These are your parent hives. And if you've been treating and everything like that, continue to treat. But then come next spring, you make your splits, and you pull those splits, you set them aside. And those become your hives that you will experiment with. And those will become your ones that hopefully you can build with. You know, go out and find a beekeeper with genetics that you like and that maybe are treatment free and stuff, you know, and introduce queens to those splits. These two parent hives you continue to run as your parent hive. Don't knock them down, because there's no point in letting everything die and then all of a sudden you have to go and spend more money. So you keep treating these, but these splits over here you just keep working with, and you develop a new system. Maybe back off of them, do something that you want to try that the beekeeping mainstream media world does not say to do or doesn't do it. And then those splits you develop off of them. If they make it, you know, great, and you keep going and going and going. And that's how I tell beekeepers to do it. That way you're not losing your initial investment. You can compare side by side, being in these every single week, every 10 days, and backing off of these and see which one builds up. Feeding these and run your own feeding experiments. How does feeding and then non-feeding and letting them with all natural, let them go natural. See, our queens naturally, even if I don't introduce a brood break, when we get into our summer dirt, which is July and August, these queens shut down. So they're actually giving themselves a natural brood break, and that is what we see a lot, because I'm not sitting here feeding them and they're laying eggs constantly. Okay, if you want to try something different, then go out there and try stuff different. You know, use what you have on hand to set things up. And the easiest way to do that is run your parent colonies, get them through winter, you know, do everything that they tell you to do, and then your splits you start working on, you start developing within, all right? And you may, just may, come across something and go, hey, you know what? I kind of like this way a little bit better, or I can do something. Or you may be like, nope, it's not for me, and you go right back to the same way. It just depends on what you want to do. You know, I know a lot of beekeepers are just solely after large crops of honey. Now, on 2 hives like this, we'll pull 80 to 100 pounds, and that's good. But I'm not overloaded the area and stuff, so there's plenty of nectar. And then we'll come back in here, and I'll probably get 60 pounds off of the 2 for a fall crop. Again, no feeding, no treatments. It doesn't work for everybody, but for those that want to, you know, there is a different way of beekeeping, and you can achieve it. You just have to kind of rethink how you do things and start doing field test experiment in your area and develop from there. All right, y'all be keeping it real out there, though. I hope your bees are doing good. I hope your season was good. I hope your honey tastes amazing, and I hope your bees make it through winter. Keep checking them, though. It is prime time for super procedures, so keep an eye on those queens. You don't want to wait too long, because winter will be here before we know it. Even though it's 100 degrees, it's going to get cold eventually. All right, y'all be keeping it real out there. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.